4 years ago, my family moved from the city. We couldn't take the fast-paced life, and we were wealthy and well-educated, and so we figured that we'd move somewhere more remote and peaceful, and Hayabi Forest. Western part of Maine is where we settled. Now, in our family, we had me. I was the oldest son. Then there was my father, my mother, one brother, one sister. Things were all right. I mean, they were fine. They were always fine around here. We lived off the land, and life was great. And then everything changed, and it wasn't for the better. God, I mean, it was horrifying. I'm alone. I'm alone now. It got them. And I'm sure I'm next, so whoever hears this story, I hope that you never stay here. 'Cause it'll get you too. These are my final thoughts. And my horrific story. It all started when my sister went for water one day. She didn't return for almost an hour. We lived alone out here, so we thought. I still hear her scream sometimes, that ear-splitting cry of terror, and the scene of my father and brother flashing looks of extreme terror before breezing through the door, and they came back, glistening, blood on their pants and shoes, crying uncontrollably. They had found nothing left of her but a few bone splinters, her ripped clothes, and a puddle of blood. Things were never the same after that day. My mother never really spoke again after seeing her daughter's remains. The next person to go was my father. Our food was running low and we were snowed in, so we couldn't get to town. He grabbed his rifle, took to the wilderness around us. He didn't come back when we expected him to. My brother and I decided that we would go searching for him in the morning, and there was no need to go out then. Around 1 a.m. I was dozing in a kitchen chair, and there was a low, guttural growl from outside the door. Then a resounding bang, bang, bang on the door, and a loud thump. A flash of a mottled black-furred creature on 2 hind legs sprinted past my window. That set me off. I screamed at the top of my lungs until my brother ran in to ask me what was happening. And I recounted the story to him, and he grabbed a rifle, handed me one, and then motioned silently towards the door. He made me open it. Cracked it open very slowly. And gasped in fear. He was our father. Or what was left. His corpse was mangled to extreme lengths. His arms were gone. His eyes were gouged out. The claw marks that dripped a crimson red. My brother collapsed in horror and shut the door weakly. No one left the house anymore. My mother still never spoke. She would just nod weakly or shake her head to communicate, if even that. My brother would break down at anything that reminded him of our lost family, but what I realized is that whatever that thing is, it's not stopping until it killed all of us. I feel it. A few weeks had passed and we lived in fear. Some nights we would hear those horrid growls and we would make sure no one fell asleep that night. Instead, we would stay up with guns in hand until daybreak. And one morning, after a long night of paranoia, my brother proclaimed that he was taking supplies and heading away to town. Freedom or death, he said. One of them happens today. And he offered to take us with him, and I pleaded him not to go, but he insisted. And I told him that I would not go. My mother just shook her head mutely. And he said that he would send for help when he got to town and keep everything locked. Don't you dare leave. Don't you even stick your nose out the damn door, he said. I know I was only 10 months older than him, but I felt awful about him being the one who was going out. I knew it was going to get him. I knew. And that night, he walked out just before dark, having made sure that having made sure that we were okay and had supplies, and began the nightmarish walk to his car. He got to the car, opened the half-frozen door after a few violent tugs on the handle, and it was then that I heard the sound that unnerved me on the spot. He turned the key, and as the car started, a blood-curdling scream lit the night air. The beast left the trees from the side opposite my brother. The creature must have been 8 feet tall, with a mangled black wolf's face and body, but walked on its own 2 legs. Or rather, sprinted. My brother opened his eyes in fear and smashed his foot on the gas pedal, and the thing pounced onto the car and violently smashed his window. My brother steered wildly, trying to get away from the creature, but he crashed his car, smashed into a tree. And if that didn't kill him, the beast reached into the car and pulled the still squirming body out of it. The creature looked right at me through the window from a distance, before slicing open my brother's stomach with a razor-sharp claw. Blood dripped from his body, and he went limp. The creature walked slowly towards the door, knowing he wanted me to fear him. He knew I was frozen. It reached the door, and I hugged my rifle tight. There was a thud, and another 3 bangs, although they went slow this time. Bang. 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 And then it screamed its chilling scream like that of a banshee and stampeded off into the woods. I couldn't open the door to retrieve my own brother's remains. I haven't slept since then. I just watched the door and I listened for him, waiting for him to come back. It's just me and my mother now. She doesn't eat or sleep or drink. She hasn't moved from her chair in 3 days until her death. I don't think she ever moved again, actually. It was a long night. 4 days without sleep. I've heard the growls every night since my brother's grisly demise, but tonight they were louder. It was tonight. He would attack tonight. I knew it. I loaded my rifle. I waited for it, thinking that he would come to the door or the window in the kitchen. I was wrong. My mother sat in the other room, but even with my phobia of it, I let her be. It was late, and I began to hear a scraping along the house sides. 4 times he circled. We were trapped, and he knew it. It stopped, and my heartbeat quickened, as if in slow motion I realized where he stopped just a moment too late, right next to the side of the house where my mother was. I knew my fears were true when I heard the disheartening sound of the window shattering in the other room. I was rooted. I heard the beast call and drop to my knees, and I saw him walk to my mother, and in one stroke took her throat, and within a heartbeat, her chest. He screamed and dove from her room, and that was just a few short hours ago. The scrapings are starting again. To whoever finds this, leave. Leave quick and don't look back. Oh God. Oh God, the scraping stopped. I don't have long. These have been my final thoughts, and the last ones I'll ever have. Please, heed this.